Herzlich willkommen bei Lieber Lieben, bei der nächsten Folge von Lieber Lieben, heute mit Komala und Gregor. Ich freue mich sehr, dass ihr hier seid und dass ihr den Podcast so zahlreich hört. Ich habe immer die Idee gehabt, dass dieser Podcast auch für Menschen eine Inspiration sein kann, die selber vielleicht nicht zur Therapie gehen oder gar nicht auf die Idee kommen, dass sie zur Therapie gehen als Paar oder alleine mit ihren Themen. Und genau das passiert jetzt. Ich bekomme von euch Zuschriften, die sagen: Ich habe so viel gelernt, ich bin so inspiriert. Ich habe mir das Buch von Christoph und Angela gekauft und unsere Sexualität verändert sich. Einmal habe ich gehört, ich musste ganz doll weinen, weil etwas in mir klar geworden ist durch das Teilen von Katrin und Herb, dass es mir in meiner Ehe genauso geht. Genau diese Inspirationen, die wollte ich euch geben mit diesem Podcast, dass ihr lernen könnt am Teilen von anderen Paaren und anderen Menschen über die Liebe, über Sexualität, über Beziehung, auch wenn ihr selbst vielleicht gar nicht auf die Idee kommen würdet, Paartherapie zu machen oder eigene Sessions zu nehmen. Heute habe ich ein früheres Paar bei mir sitzen. Komala und Gregor waren jahrelang zusammen, haben zusammen gearbeitet, 20 Jahre lang, und arbeiten auch nach ihrer Trennung noch zusammen. Die beiden sprechen über die Möglichkeit, sich bewusst zu trennen, sich in Verständnis und im Zuhören zu trennen. Die beiden sprechen über ihre Arbeit und wir werden heute ein bisschen hin und her gleiten zwischen Deutsch und Englisch. Dieser Podcast ist ja eigentlich auf Deutsch, aber Komala spricht Englisch und wir werden so ein bisschen hin und her flowen und ich hoffe, ihr könnt dem gut folgen. Viel Spaß bei der heutigen Folge mit Gregor und Komala.
Ja, willkommen, danke Elisabeth, und es ist richtig schön hier zu sein. Genau, ich starte mal mit ein paar Worten auf Deutsch und dann können wir das ja so fluide, wie das auch in unserer Beziehung immer war oder ist, fluide mit der Sprache umgehen, aber es ist richtig schön hier zu sein.
Hello, Elisabeth and everybody. So I will be speaking English, and it's really a pleasure to be here with you, both of you, and everybody else to reveal in this subject that is really dear to us all.
So the subject that is dear to you. So the subject obviously is the relationship that you had, the love that you had, and also the relationship that you have. As I heard now, Gregor says, die Beziehung, die wir haben. So you still have a connection, you still have a relationship, even though you went through a separation after a long-term relationship. So that is something that rarely happens, as I see, that people really, after having a breakup, after having a long-term relationship, having a breakup, are still in connection, are still really supporting each other, and even going to a podcast and being interviewed about how did we do this. So maybe you want to speak a bit about your time as a couple and as lovers and as a relationship and your breakup. And tell us all about how did this evolve? How did this happen? Komala, you want to start?
Yes, I will start. So we have been as a couple for 16 years. And before that, we knew each other for 2 years. And I would say our relationship started from friendship. And from friendship, it developed into attraction and love. And one thing that was really a big part of our connection was the work with ourselves. This have been already part of my life for many years, part of Gregor's life. And when we came together, somehow this potentialized. I believe this was also part of why we are still, let's say, moving that relationship.
Can you say something more about this inner work that you're talking about for if there's people listening who don't really know, because it's more like, what does this mean exactly for you? What did that mean, the inner work where you two met?
So this inner work is about inner reflection and getting to know myself and all the possibilities that I am, also my, let's say, my gifts, my capacities, but also all what is very challenging for me. You know, my emotional world, the way I think about life, and very much also what is not easy.
So the trigger points that are coming up, the things that hurt you, the things that bother you, the things that you don't want to live with.
Yes.
And I just chime in a few words. So to make it maybe more concrete right now. So basically, we're both very strongly already devoted to a spiritual path, like where meditation has been a very, very deep foundation of both of our lives. That's also, we met in India. That's interesting to mention that place.
On a retreat, something.
I'm Austrian. Komala is from Brazil, and we met in India. So that already gives you a little bit of the picture of the unusualness, maybe, or unconventionality that kept also being part of our relationship. I mean, for us, it was totally normal. That's what our lives looked like. But even that's maybe part of the podcast here, also the way it evolved, the way it happened, the way we separated, the way we are right now is not always just normal, even though for me or for us, it is the normal way of living, not always the standard, let's say. So this was like we're both very deep in the psycho-spiritual meditation world. And
two hippies falling in love in India.
exactly. But there's one bit I always said when we got together, we were both, and we talked about that in a moment where we were not seeking relationship. We were not looking for the other to make my life good, which is not a bad thing, but it's just was not where we were. And it was not even like, do we want to go into relationship? We were very committed to that inner relationship at that time. And I always felt, or we both felt, that this was a very lucky foundation to begin a relationship from. And I think that continued. And there were many other ups and downs and everything. But it's still like the beginning of something I think is significant, and that stayed also as an essence through the relationship, and also is present now, like the friendship and the inner connection we have with ourselves, that is also became visible in the way we were handling our separation and the way we're in connection right now.
It's beautiful because I had this interview partner here, David Naor, a Kabbalistic teacher. And he was also talking about the not seeking, not needing the partner, but more being focused on the inner way. So there seems to be a principle there. When I don't need someone to fill me up, it seems to be the best time to really open up for love. So that's beautiful, the way you describe that. You were more focused inside in your own development, and then you met.
And I really consider that the beginning of our relationship and the development of it was really this rising in love more than falling in love.
Building it up from friendship.
Yes.
Ja, das Aufbauen, also erst die Freundschaft als Fundament und dann kommt die Liebe dazu.
Yes. We had this, we talked about, even the last time, 3 days ago, we met to connect, and we talked about this again and again, that we met first from, we call it like mental, but it's not really mental, it's more spiritual connection.
In Deutsch, man könnte sagen, so die geistige Welt oder der geistige Rahmen von.
Like the first attraction or the strongest attraction was, and this is much more than spiritual, is that this attraction to the path that we had and this longing to keep on unfolding.
And it seems as if it's still going on like that.
Yes, I think so.
Like I look at you and you both glow, and it looks as if you're both totally in peace with your path. Seems as if this is like the overview of something that has been there. I mean, we will go there in a minute. I didn't want to interrupt you, Komala. Sorry, I'm just excited about that.
Yes. And from there, it's really like connecting the heart and, of course, naturally the sexuality, which is a very natural, important part of an intimate relationship. And then it became really a movement between these three spaces, which we actually talk a lot about when we are working, we have been working a lot with couples and relationship groups, that there is this centers of attraction, and that can be mental, intellectual, spiritual, heart connection, and the physical, the sexual connection. And that's important.
Ja, lass mich das ganz kurz, das finde ich gerade ganz wichtig, weil ihr macht ja, also einfach nochmal so ins Deutsche ganz kurz das zu übersetzen, weil das ist irgendwie so, ihr habt Couple-Arbeit, also ihr habt Paararbeit gemacht, und dieses davon zu sprechen, die verschiedenen Zentren der Attraction, der Anziehung, also die geistige, die mentale, die Herzverbindung und die sexuelle Verbindung. Habe ich eins vergessen, was Komala gerade gesagt hat, Gregor? Das finde ich total spannend, weil das ist auch nochmal für Menschen, die zuhören, nochmal eine super, so wo läuft's bei uns gut? Ja, es gibt ja Paare, bei denen läuft's da super und da vielleicht nicht so. Aber diese Zentren der Anziehung so zu merken, das finde ich nochmal ganz spannend. Ja.
Yeah. And every person or every couple, might start from a different center, right?
Yeah. And then you have to build up the other center.
Yes, and then I find it super important that all the other centers then that we connect, we take care of it.
Yeah.
Or three light up at the same time, then you crack the jackpot.
I thought 4.
3. I mean, yeah, it's like the mind and the spiritual. That's what we call one.
Okay.
And and so it's like the upper spheres, the middle, the heart, like as friendship, as love, the embracing vulnerability and connection. Where in a way also friendship is an element of this, which is like be in the presence of each other. And this other attraction that is much more
sexual,
raw, sexual, also intimacy, pleasure, these kind of like, and
childish energy, building a family,
all of this. And I see you as like, I want you, and all of those, and they can all come together, but often it's one that starts, that's kind of more like the ignition of a connection that then can light up the others naturally, or then with time, most likely you have to work on the others more. And it's good and helpful if you know what's the beginning, what's the beginning spark, because that can be like a continued resource to come back. And like, okay, that's a place we can connect with again and again, and then take care of the others again.
I would always think that the mental and the spiritual are two, but it's interesting that you bring them in as one. That's interesting to see that. And I mean, that's something that I can meditate about or think about, or people can think about. So, aber das ist interessant, so diese 3 Zentren, wie ihr sagt, ne, die geistige, die Herzebene, wo auch die Freundschaft ist, und die Erdebene, wo die Sexualität ist und wo auch vielleicht das Aufbauen von Familie ist, und dass man eben immer wieder auch zu einem, der sozusagen funktioniert, von diesen Zentren zurückkommt. Und von dort, vielleicht man kann sich das vorstellen wie so ein Brunnen, der dann von dort zu die anderen Zentren so mitinformieren kann oder miternähren kann. Und dann muss man wahrscheinlich an bestimmten Zentren mehr arbeiten. Jedes Paar hat eine andere Aufgabe. Ja.
Genau, und es werden immer, so in the course of the relationship, you will get to see where the challenges are.
Where were your challenges?
Well, let's get personal.
Oh, that's an interesting question. What was?
I would say, I'll give a go, and then you add, Komala. You good?
Yes.
I think it's still now, like Komala said, when we connect, it's so easy for us to connect on this, even like the geistige Ebene, like the mental is not, it's an intellectual stimulation, but it's also like a commitment to values and principles, and seeing the world kind of similar, the world views almost. And also you can go include, like, people think about that or want to think about it like soul levels. Do we really chime in the larger trajectory of life together, And sometimes people meet for a certain phase, and then 20 years later, when a certain task has maybe been completed, family, house, career, whatever, suddenly you find out, well, actually we don't. And so it doesn't align anymore.
Mm-hmm. Or things have changed. We don't anymore, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this was always a strong and a easy foundation for us. And also, I think the hard level was always there. And I think the challenge was in the physicality, not so much in the physical attraction or sexuality. So how that we, of course, needed to work on that, and it's up and downs, but we still were attracted and loved each other and liked each other. So that was not the case of why we separated. It was more like the worldview of like how we wanted to live daily life. Sometimes that was a bit of a difference, or also looks different today. So we could go into details, but that's the.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, we were even sharing about this 3 days ago, and actually tuning in again of what is that? What was the impulse for us to separate? And I mean, there are many different levels, but part of it, what we understand is that we completed the cycle,
Mm-hmm.
and in a way, we are quite different. We have so many things we share, but we also have very different ways of living. Because I am somehow much more, let's say, I'm a Sagittarius, so we say this. I need much more to live like a big family life, like spiritual family. And Gregor is somehow, I'm speaking out to him, and he can say that after. Or let's say, especially these last years before we separated, this start highlighting also his need more for like a family, or a smaller family, or a closer family, which somehow it was no longer possible for us to have.
Mm-hmm.
And
because you're some years older also, right?
yeah, because of
Gregor?
also difference of age and
More parts of the unconventionality of our relationship.
Yeah. How many years older are you, Komala, than Gregor?
I'm 13 years older.
13 years older.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
13 Jahre älter. Okay, das heißt, diese Möglichkeit, auch eine Familie, die Gregor sich gewünscht hat, zu eröffnen, gab es dann für euch zusammen nicht mehr. So there was not the opportunity to do that together, this wish for family that Gregor had. Okay.
But also to say, just to be clear, this was not something that just happened and we didn't talk about. Like, that was of our decisions while we were together, knowing this is not our path. We created a lot of other babies, let's say, in our work.
Yeah, you worked together, I mean, successfully as a couple. Yeah.
We created a lot, but there was a clarity of the decision. This is not what we will create together.
Yes.
Also das heißt, nochmal kurz zusammenzufassen, sorry. Ihr habt zusammen während eurer Beziehung entschieden, trotz des Altersunterschiedes, dass ihr keine Kinder zusammen haben wollt. Ihr habt eure anderen Kinder miteinander in die Welt gebracht, eure Arbeiten und so weiter. Und dann gab es so eine Klarheit, dass Gregor mehr so eine Familienenergie leben möchte und Komala mehr in einem großen Familienkontext leben möchte. Und das nochmal so kurz zu übersetzen. Finde ich sehr interessant, dass ihr das also auch bewusst gemacht habt. Es war nicht so, es hat nicht geklappt, es geht nicht, sondern das ist nicht unser Weg, so um das nochmal so.
Yeah. In some way, I believe we had that in our awareness, that we have, was not conscious, but we knew that our relationship it has a limit or a limitation at some point. And we didn't think about, I believe we really lived fully in the moment, also even, our attraction in our creativity. But somewhere we kept that open, which for me, it is, maybe it is important for every couple. because you never know, to keep that openness that, okay, this is not forever.
Yeah.
But it's possible that is forever. We get old together. But at the same time, live life to the moment, with what's happening, with the creativity that is being built in the moment or while we are together. And having that openness to, okay, when does our path are actually calling for something else. For me, this is part of this spiritual dimension.
Connection and way to live. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I know that from myself and of course from many people having children also, that of course often relationships end when this being parents together is kind of fulfilled. And then in our society, also ich habe manchmal das Gefühl, in unserer Gesellschaft ist dann so ein Blick von, oh nein, jetzt sind die auseinandergegangen. Eigentlich könnte man aber auch sagen, oh super, sie haben das so toll gemacht, sie haben Kinder zusammen großgezogen, sie haben die Familie zusammen gegründet und jetzt gehen sie weiter in ihrem Leben. This accepting that things end, there's a cycle that ends and then this is done and then something else comes. This is not something that we learn in our society, I feel. Okay, yeah, Gregor is really waiting for something. He wants to say something. Komala, is that okay?
Now we're in that place, we both feel like we need to talk and like every one of us could talk.
Ja. Ich moderiere das jetzt ein bisschen. Okay. Die beiden haben mir nämlich vorher gesagt, jetzt nochmal für die Zuhörenden, die beiden haben mir vorher gesagt, wir lieben es dann zu sprechen, wir könnten dann auch 5 Stunden reden. Du musst uns dann ab und zu stoppen, damit wir nicht beide die ganze Zeit reden. Also, das mache ich sehr gerne. Gregor, was möchtest du sagen? Du strahlst so und möchtest was sagen.
Yeah, I think because this is kind of the essence of where it gets really interesting, also what you both shared. And so I want to say first that we separated for me and for us. And also, I think this gets really mirrored back by our families and friendship circles that are still interconnected also. It doesn't feel like, oh my God, this is now a failure, like the relationship failed and that's why they're not together anymore. Of course, it has been really painful. It has been challenging and everything. So we're not beyond anything. But ultimately, I think we both view, and I can speak for myself, this more like a maturing or a culmination or a ripening of our connection. So, and that means that what Komala said, so giving all these explanations, oh, we're a little bit different with this or that, and I have a different need, which is all very true. Part of that is also we respect, like we look back and we, in hindsight, kind of make sense of the movement, but I don't think it exactly explains why.
Kannst du das nochmal auf Deutsch sagen?
Ja, dass wir so ein bisschen wie so im Rückspiegel jetzt so schauen und uns Erzählungen und Geschichten und Erklärungen auch so geben und die stimmen alle, die haben alle eine Stimmigkeit, aber gleichzeitig erzählen sie nicht genau, warum wir jetzt nicht mehr zusammen sind. Also
wie so eine Ebene, wo es gar nicht um das Warum geht, meinst du?
Genau. Das ist wie eine Erklärung dazu, die das auch gut halten kann und die gut ist, aber das ist nicht der Grund. I think the
movement is bigger than the reason.
Yeah, because when we got together and it was a bit like unlikely, like I was 8 young. Oh my God. In India, Komala was 13 years older. And it was like, there could have been 1,000 reasons why to not stay and create a life together. It was also challenging. The movement, where would we live? Like, I'm from Austria. I grew up in the countryside, a farm, from very conservative values. And I lived there again, but lived a very, very, very open life. Mm-hmm. But still, both of this is in us. Like, we also met with this, Komala with a similar background, but from another continent. Mm-hmm. So there would have been many reasons why this would not have worked. But it felt like life. And this is not in a naive, like we abandon our responsibilities out to life. Like, see what happens. It's not like, oh, I'm hedonistic.
Not like passive. Nicht so eine Haltung von, okay, das Leben macht schon, was es will und ich tue nichts, ich gestalte es nicht mit. Ne? So, yeah.
Ja, genau. Das ist auch eine Variante von, ja, das Leben sagt das. No, das
ist alles wurscht.
We had a very, we've clearly felt from this place we were connecting, like, this is right. And it continued to be right.
Also ihr habt es nicht passiv abgegeben ans Leben, sondern ihr habt wirklich euch dem hingegeben und weil es sich richtig angefühlt habt, habt ihr euch da reingetraut sozusagen. Mhm.
Genau. Und dann gab's auch, wir haben dann geheiratet und dann gab's auch so diese, auch in unseren oder Heiratsversprechen war das nicht so, bis der Tod euch scheidet, sondern wir haben das wie drin gehabt, auch wenn das Leben uns dann sozusagen auf einen anderen Weg führt, dass wir das im Bewusstsein machen, so that we will stay in connection. And we did. And the deeper movement of the separation was like, for me or for us, it both felt there were conversations and stuff that led to it, but at one point suddenly it was just clear. And then it was even not that I want that, but it was clear and it is right.
And that is something, because now I would like to kind of introduce this part that you can teach me and all of us about this conscious uncoupling, because there's something. You're both therapists and you work with couples and you've been going through that as a couple, as friends. I would like for you to tell me and us about this. How does this work? So, also ich nochmal auf Deutsch, die beiden sind ja auch Therapeuten und sie haben sich als Paar sozusagen bewusst getrennt, und ich möchte sozusagen diese Übersetzung, irgendwann war es einfach klar. Und wie geht denn bewusste Trennung, dass ihr da sowohl persönlich, aber auch eben als wissende Therapeuten, die uns da was beibringen können, nochmal drüber sprecht, was sind denn die Prinzipien von bewusster Trennung? Wie geht denn das? So how does this work, this conscious uncoupling? What are the principles to do that? So I hear you kind of knew both. You knew now this is the time to separate, but how did you know? And how does this go? How does this work, this conscious uncoupling?
I'm going to go there. And before, just something about, because you mentioned also about children and separation, and that when the children grow up, that's maybe an opening for, okay, now we can see what is next, right? For us, when we came together, and I believe we came together to have a child, and the child is our work.
Mm-hmm.
So when we came together, we potentialized our capacities and our creativity, and we created amazing works together and also separated on our own. My own work, his own work, and together. So, and this somehow is, I feel this is our creation. This is our child that's still growing. And somehow, when I look back, even when we separated, the child that we had created had grown and was really thriving.
Living by itself in their own apartment.
Yes. So the process of uncoupling, first, important for me to say, it's not necessarily easy. I don't want to bring here this idea, oh yes, it was all flowers and beautiful. No, it's difficult, it's painful, because we've been so intertwined together in so many levels, that the separation, it's part of it to experience, and necessary, that it is not easy and it's painful, and it's difficult. And it's a process. It's a long process.
What does this process involve? So what is the parts of this process? What are the steps of this process? How would you say that?
Very important or fundamental of it is to feel what I'm feeling, to really be able to feel the challenges, the difficult feelings, the confusion, the fears, the pain. And
do you bring that to the ex-partner? Do you feel that together or alone or both in the conscious uncoupling?
both. And of course, it's also very important to be able then in that time to take care of it on my own. But my own doesn't mean alone, also with friends or support. But I would say the most important of all of what helps me, I can say, is the whole process I've been through of learning how to be with my feelings, and to be able to to experience intensity of feelings and also pain, and to really cry when I need to cry.
To let go of the resistance against the hurt, right? To accept that this is a painful part, this hurts. Ja.
Yes, yes.
Mhm. Also diesen Widerstand gegen die Gefühle loszulassen und sich den Gefühlen auch wirklich zu stellen, das tut weh, sich zu trennen, ja. Mhm.
Because what I see, and I've experienced that in other previous relationship, and I also see from people I work with, many times one way that how people manage separation is by closing the heart and closing off and closing the feelings.
And that is so painful for the other person who is not closing off.
Yes.
And it's also very painful, the one who is closing off.
Yeah, but mostly they don't know it first. Meistens wissen die das am Anfang nicht, wie schmerzhaft das ist. Genau, aber letzten Endes hat es so Effekte, ne? Sich so zuzumachen, damit man sich trennen kann, hat ja Effekte.
Yes.
Ja.
And at first I believe it's easier to close because then you don't feel. But that for me is let's say, the way how to make things more difficult to really uncouple, and definitely to uncouple in a conscious, loving way. But if I'm able to feel my pain, to own it and not to blame the other, which is not easy, then that is let's say, that's the process, that's the way. How to learn to be with my own difficulties and challenges.
What I know that it's very painful when one person does that and the other person is not there for some like questions, or when one person feels the whole pain and the other person closes up, shuts down. That's a very painful process, because then Gregor, yeah.
And I just want to make the picture a little bit bigger again, so we can talk from our experience and also the experience of supporting people. And I think so this is ideal if you can do it like this, just as Komala said, because it's true, when we are open and we can digest the impact that it has, and it has a huge impact. The more your life was intertwined, the more it needs this uncoupling. It's like I had this picture, I really felt it in my body, like as a part of my body had left. And it was so painful. And it's a bit like when you have tissues, or like
You tear them, wenn du so ein Taschentuch auseinanderziehst, diese zwei dünnen Seiten, ne? Genau, dann sieht man das.
that have grown into each other. And that's what you want in a relationship. You want that this grows into each other and creates a stronger field for life, for projects, for life, for everything. And then when you separate it, either people cannot do because it's stuck together, or they go like,
Ja, sie reißen das dann so auseinander. They tear it apart. Ja, furchtbar, ja.
So what we figured was like, it needs time, but time alone is also not enough. It needs awareness of these different layers to disentangle from each other. Like
Ja, sind ja allein solche Momente, wo man morgens aufwacht und der andere ist nicht mehr da, oder wo man plötzlich merkt, ich werde nie wieder in seinem oder in ihrem Arm liegen, oder wo man plötzlich merkt, jetzt würde ich die Person anrufen, aber ich sollte das ja jetzt nicht machen. Das sind diese ganzen kleinen Momente, ne?
Gemeinsame Routinen, gemeinsame Wiederholungen, das ist wie ein Trauerjahr, das erste Mal das nicht mehr zusammen, nicht mehr so.
Ja.
And sometimes people feel very relieved at first. Well, finally, not that anymore. But then also
ja, genau, das
not that anymore. So it's very close to each other, close together, And but even more. So the way the uncoupling happens is also a direct, like you asked before. So do you bring that to your partner or not, and how you do that? I don't think there's a standard way of answering that.
No, because it also has to do with what do each ex-partners want.
It depends on the relationship, the uncoupling is also a reflection of the relationship you had before. Same like death is not disconnected from the life you were leading until death. Death is a continuation and a reflection of life that you've been leading.
And the death of a relationship also. Mm.
Exactly. And so what we were in a way lucky, or had grace on our sides, because that was a very, very strong part of our relationship, to keep this communication, learn and train, and keep coming back to each other, work through the difficulties. So we didn't have a lot of unprocessed luggage in that moment. And we had a lot of practice of being with each other in very difficult moments and learning to feel through that. And still, really, it was difficult, and not so much, I would say, between us necessarily, but for us individually. And then maybe in times not to go to the other as we would have done, because it is now different. And one thing that was super helpful for us, that I feel or I see in couples become a very difficult thing, is we had something like a shared narrative or story or explanation of why we're separating.
Yeah, because that's different. If one person says one thing and feels one thing and the other person feels a totally different story, then that's hard, because then you're talking about the stories. I know that a lot.
And you fight for the shared die gleiche Erzählung. And like, if you have that, it's still painful, but you're working on it together. So I felt very often, even we were separating, but we were working on it together.
And what would you suggest for people where this is different? What would you suggest for people where one wants the separation and one doesn't, or where one story is different to the other? What would you suggest, Gregor?
Yeah, first is to acknowledge that this is how it is. And then often it's one wants to get out more and one less, and then the different patterns meet, and then the explanations are different, and then you want to blame the other or you blame yourself. And all of this is needed material that processes still what was going on in the relationship before, that for sure also was there before, 100%. Nothing just emerged just at that moment.
Das finde ich spannend, dass die Art der Trennung auch nochmal wie so ein Spiegel der Beziehung ist. Das kann man ja wirklich auch nochmal für sich selbst bei all den Trennungen, die man durch hat, überprüfen. Und so, dass die Muster, die auftauchen in der Trennung, das stimmt. Also wenn ich da so auf meine eigene persönliche Geschichte gucke, oh la la, ja genau, genau so sehr wie ich dann Kontakt wollte in der Trennung, wollte ich es auch in der Beziehung. Und ne, also so diese Art und Weise, wie der eigene Vorgang in der Beziehung, oder da, wo ein Mensch sich mehr zurückgezogen hat in der Beziehung und der andere mehr nach vorne gegangen ist oder mehr reingegeben hat oder so. Genau das passiert auch in der Trennung, finde ich einen spannenden Punkt. Mhm.
And it's, for me, super important not, again, to paint here an ideal picture of like, that's how it's supposed to be.
Ja, nee, jeder hat seine eigene Geschichte.
Cannot have that you cannot do it together, and not try or then beat yourself because it's not happening, to really accept the painful thing. This is not where it is now. And sometimes it is better to not connect, because it would not lead to healing movement. And sometimes this happens after 5 years, you know?
It's also a painful process if one wants like this real uncoupling to go on, because it's also easier for the next partners if you really, washed the last relationship clear and everything is really fine and the partner is honored, then it's also easier for the next partners to really take their place. I mean, we can go there in a minute, but how do you create a space where the next partners are really safe and sound and everything is fine? But it's painful if that doesn't happen. And that's probably a part, what you addressed to, Gregor, is to really accept, if this is not possible in our separation, then I have to go with that and I have to be with that. And I don't get this conscious uncoupling.
Yeah, and I can do part of this within myself, even if the other is not fully available for that.
Yeah. I think this is super important, that if that's the situation, it's not going to help me if I'm forcing or wanting the other person to be in the way the person is not able to.
Because that's been the case in the relationship also. Yeah.
Yes.
If a person is not up to that, you can't force them. Mm-hmm.
How do I take care of that now in myself? And again, I don't have to do it alone, but it's absolutely possible to deal with all, again, this dealing with all the pain, the difficulties, the whatever comes up with this specific situation. And but then to find a way, and for me, this has to do a lot with the heart, really, how to keep my heart open.
To the love that I experienced and to the pain that I experience now when I go through that.
Exactly. Yeah. Because this is, I really can say that. I mean, and of course, everyone has to experience that on their own way. This is the way how to stay open for a further relationship.
Yeah, if I'm open to my last relationship, if my heart is still open to what we had, then it's easier to really be open to the next. Ne? Also wenn ich nach hinten hin mein Herz öffne für das, was ich gelebt habe, dann kann ich auch nach vorne hin mein Herz mehr öffnen. So verstehe ich das.
Yeah, yeah. I would say to stay open to what was, let's say, what I've received from that relationship.
Yes.
Of course, recognizing what was also not good is also part of learning. And that's what I can also bring into a further future relationship, what didn't work, what I learned from it. But it's more like, how do I keep my heart open in my belief system also? Because, of course, through such as, if there is an intense, difficult separation, we can go into create certain beliefs, and then, oh, that's how relationship is, that's how whatever men, women are. And then that prevent us from actually stay open, fresh, for something new.
Ich würde das gern noch mal kurz noch mal so dieses Prinzip, dass ich mein Herz offen halte für das, was ich bekommen habe in der Beziehung, von der ich mich verabschiede, und auch für das, was ich nicht bekommen habe oder was schwer war, dass mich das wiederum auch öffnet für das, was als nächstes kommt. Also das nehme ich mal so als eins der Prinzipien. Ja, dann nehme ich eins der Prinzipien, also so, wenn ich das jetzt mal so übersetzen würde, um sich zu trennen, dass ich sowohl mit dem Partner, der Partnerin, wenn möglich, als auch alleine wirklich fühle, was diese Trennung bedeutet. Das würde ich jetzt mal so als eins der Prinzipien nehmen. Ich meine, ein systemisches Prinzip ist ja auch wirklich das zu achten, was da war, ja, und zu sagen, ich achte dich als den Menschen, der so und so lange in meinem Leben war, auch damit ich frei bin für das Nächste, und eben auch das im anderen zu achten. Was würdest du noch ein Prinzip benennen, Gregor oder Komala? Würdet ihr noch ein Prinzip benennen für eine gute Trennung?
Die Hinbewegung, wenn möglich, zu einer gemeinsamen Erzählung der Beziehung.
Das ist schön.
Dass es nicht dann einfach eine gescheiterte Beziehung ist, oder der eine hat es verbockt, oder weil sie, oder weil er, oder weil...
Oder der andere ist doof oder krank oder verrückt.
Ja, genau.
Genau. Das sind ja dann so die beliebten Geschichten.
Einen breiten Bauchladen, was man sich alles als Erzählungen wie ausleihen kann. Und einfach dieses Honorieren, dass eine Beziehung, die sich tief verwoben hat, auch die Zeit braucht, bis sich das wieder klärt und also trennt im Sinne von sich in sich selbst wieder schließt. Und das sind ja auch so, maybe I move back to English. So, and also in our relationship, we separated, but then we didn't just like split up and never talk to each other again. We so actually during COVID, which was a blessing, so we stayed together for I think 5 months, living in the same place, and it was great. And then there were steps, and the steps continued like over years, like also physical and like legal disentanglements, and to allow that, because people make two mistakes. Either you do it too fast, now it's done, and like next day I move out,
and I never talk with you again.
I never talk to you, I'm done, I move on.
And don't contact me, otherwise you're a pain in the ass.
When you do that, you will make sure that you cannot move on. That's given. And then the other thing is that you drag it out way too long. And then because everything is so difficult, and then you're kind of not together anymore, but also not separated. And again, also the next phases of life can't really happen.
Mm-hmm. I heard that half of the time that you were together, it takes to separate, but maybe that's not true if you do that your way, because then it would be 8 years for you.
Well, it's like if you're 50 years together, and the next 25 years you're busy with that. I wouldn't do those simplified mathematics, but it takes, of course, time. But there's one thing I want to come back to what you said now, Komala, about the heart. I think this is so central, and we live in a world, first of all, that has very distorted views about romance, relationship, marriage, and all these things already to begin with. But we live especially in a world that has like fundamentally a total lack of clear views or stories or how to hold separation. It's either a failure or then it's like, yeah, but it was anyway good that you get out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all kind of wrong applause. Yeah. And then I really experienced that for myself. Like, it was so humbling also, and painful and instructive that because when we separated, I mean, maybe it's a little special, I don't know, but like I didn't feel any of us like couldn't stand the other anymore, and now that's why we want to separate. So we still liked and love, and we do now love each other, and at the same time it was clear this is not meant to be, and it was stimmig, it was like clear to us inside. And then I felt, wow, it's so painful. There were moments I wished my heart would close to come out so I just could find her stupid. And
Oh, I know that feeling. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You wish you don't feel anything anymore in a separation, but you do, and you still, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I knew this is not the way either, so it had to be painful. And then there is one big mistake that I see with people a lot. So either you close down and you, okay, happy to not have a talk to that person again, or you still feel this kind of care and love and all the stuff you did together, and then you confuse that also with, but that would mean that we still have to be together, right?
No, it
Nice.
doesn't
A
have
lot
to
of
mean
people
that.
that separate, and then something calms, and then they get together and like, but we still like each other.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, but now.
No, because then what is needed is to stay true to your instinct that once told you, or that really tells you this is over and this is not working, and to go through that pain and stay in the instinct. That's what I get from what you're saying, Gregor. Yeah.
Yeah, and to allow a worldview of life where forms are allowed to change.
Exactly. Ja, eine Weltsicht zu erlauben, wo sich die Formen verändern können. Das ist super schön.
Yeah, because we live in a world where we want to keep it as it was. And then you have people. I think for us, it was super, for me and for us, it was super helpful to have people around us who understood this and were not confused by, but you're so great still together. Why aren't you together,
Yeah, and that sucks. Sometimes that sucks when the others come with their opinions because they don't see the whole picture, and I know that, like those images that people have, and if people can see, yeah, but I can see that you're super together, but that doesn't mean that this relationship is still on. That's a very good point. Also auch da sich nicht verwirren zu lassen von Meinungen anderer überein, sondern wirklich auch so bei dem eigenen Gefühl zu bleiben und sich auch Leute einzuladen, die verstehen, ein Zirkel kann sich beendet haben und die einen da drin auch begleiten können. Das ist auch schön. Also ich glaube auch diese Gemeinschaft, die ihr ansprecht, die euch, oder Freunde, die euch begleiten.
Ja, und das ist, für mich ist wie so, like, sorry, in English, that people could reflect back to us and we felt that now the relationship is not destroyed, but it went to another octave. But it took all the pain that we talked about to get there also. And we have very little role models in that in our life and in our society.
Absolut. Es gibt fast gar keine Vorbilder, finde ich auch. Also es gibt ganz wenig Literatur über gute Trennung. Es gibt ganz wenig Vorbilder in der Gesellschaft oder in der Welt über gute Trennung. Es ist wirklich, meistens kriegt man ja mit, es wird abgebrochen und das war's, ne? Und dann wird schlecht übereinander gesprochen im schlimmsten Fall. Ja, und dann arbeiten die Leute das einzeln auf. Also es gibt ja ganz wenige solche Vorbilder wie euch, Menschen, die durch eine gute Trennung gehen und miteinander sogar noch danach arbeiten und sogar noch im Podcast sitzen und über ihre Trennung reden. Also
Und ich glaube schon, die gibt's auch, aber die machen, also gibt's ganz viel Familien, die das gut machen, aber die machen keine Schlagzeilen.
genau, also zum Beispiel Familien. Ich habe mal von einer, I heard from a family once, when the parents separated, they all went together in the family house and each person of the family told something about the house that they were kind of moving out of now. That is such a beautiful ritual. And there's not many people who do that way. And I would wish for our society people to do that more.
Yes, and that's the thing, rituals. And we had actually performed and moved through different rituals to find this completion, and having the participation of, like Gregor had said, of our friends, really, sharing it. Also, we kept working for 5 years after separating. We were working together still, which is quite amazing. And the work even got better somehow together. Because just to bring back, you have said this a few times, but this is super important. In our culture, there is not enough understanding that separation, the same like death, death is not contrary to life, that separating is not, it's an end. So it's not like a continuation of something, of a process. And to bring that into a ritualistic, into a space of care.
I have done some beautiful constellation works with couples as rituals. So I've accompanied some couples through their uncoupling in constellations, and I guess you two have done that the same, to really find a ritual that helps them accept and go through. And sometimes it's so painful, but then after that there's such a relief because we acknowledged what we had with each other, the gifts we took, and we take them home, and then we say thank you, and we also give something back, maybe that we don't want to have from the other anymore. Also da gibt's ja auch ein Ritual, also ich kenne das aus der Aufstellungsarbeit auch viel, habe auch viele Paare oder einige Paare darin begleitet, eine bewusste Trennung zu gehen, wo du das nimmst, was du bekommen hast, und wo du das auch zurückgibst, was du nicht mehr haben willst, oder wo eben dieses Auseinanderziehen der Taschentücher sozusagen in einem gehaltenen Space begleitet wird. Also dieses wirklich das Gewebe zu trennen, ja. Und diese Rituale, die du ansprichst, Komala, dass es da Rituale gibt in der Welt, das müssen wir wie neu erfinden. Das gibt's in unserer westlichen Kultur nicht, ja. Mhm.
And this is super important for our movement forward, and also,
For the new partners.
for the new partners, and also for everybody that is connected with us. Let's say our work and our children. I mean, this is super fundamental for the children, if you have children, and that the energy moves forward.
How can you find rituals, and how can this go on well, even if there's not communication, there's not contact, there's not listening to each other, but there's this abrupt endings? What would help those people?
Well, I would just say that it's never too late, or any time, whenever there is something still hanging on in myself around some past relationship that hasn't been moved. It's always right now, here now, time to take care of it and to look into it and find ways and maybe support for that. But it's definitely never too late. As long as it's here in my system, there is the possibility for movement.
Mhm. Yeah, and some of those things we can do by ourselves, for example, in a constellation or in a therapy session. And sometimes maybe it's needed to address something, to write a letter or call somebody. I had an interview here with my ex long years ago boyfriend, and he suddenly addressed me and he wanted to say sorry for something 30 years later. So it's never too late. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would have been also my first word. It's never too late, because time is real, and at the same time, for energetic processes, it's not time that defines the movement of the process. So if it's not done, it's not done, and maybe it will not be done this lifetime. You don't know. But do what you can do, what you feel you want to do in your heart to move that with support. Find good support for yourself. And I've seen miracles with people suddenly after, you felt like this was the end of it. They will never speak. There will never be acknowledgement. And suddenly, you don't know, suddenly it comes up. And it's never like, hang in there, and then let it be as it is, but hang in there.
Yeah, and it might not resolve the situation with the person, but if it resolves inside of me, it is resolved.
Within yourself. Mm.
And I have one more thing, Elisabeth, for what for the couples that don't have it. I would still go, because there are a lot of couples listening that are in relationship. So don't wait for that until you need it. Live it now. Invest and commit to the care of the relationship as much as you can. And also leave a part of you open that things will end. Maybe at the end of your life, if all goes well, maybe before, maybe tomorrow, you don't know. But have that as a lived, not as a dramatic, everything will go to end, but as a reality of life. Get comfortable with endings, with death, and with transitions and movements of change of form, because they're part of life. And the more this is part of what you live inside you, it will reflect back to you on the outside in different ways.
That's a beautiful closure word. I love that. To integrate the ending, also das Ende mit einzubeziehen, auch wenn wir lieben. Also eben, und genau wie du sagst, Gregor, selbst wenn es nur der Tod ist, es gibt ein Ende. Also selbst wenn der Traum entsteht und man bleibt bis zum Ende, dann muss man sich auch verabschieden. Wir müssen uns immer verabschieden, wenn wir lieben. Dieses Ende mit einzubeziehen und mit dem Ende jetzt zu leben, das finde ich ein ganz schönes Abschluss.
Liebe ist das, was bleibt. Die Form ist in Veränderung.
Ah, wow. What a deep closure of this podcast episode. Was für ein schönes Ende. Ja, genau. Die Liebe endet nicht mit dem Ende der Form. Das ist schön. Und das ist genau das, wenn ich das Herz offen halte, dann hat diese Liebe in mir immer einen Platz, auch wenn die Form vorbei ist und ich längst mit jemand Neuem bin und ich neue PartnerInnen habe. Aber diese Erfahrung und dieser Abdruck in meinem Feld ist ein Teil von meinem Gewebe, von meinem Taschentuch heute. So, ja. Ich glaube, das können die Zuhörenden auch gut mitnehmen. I think this is what people can really take with them from here.
Yeah, and if you meet a partner, you're receiving the fruits of love that they had with other people before. So you're always in a continuation.
Ja, und es ist auch gut, wenn das auch geehrt wird, ne? Was der Partner, den ich treffe, die Partnerin, die ich treffe, für Partnerschaften vorher hatte, dass ich das auch ehre, dass das ist ja ein Teil, genau wie die Eltern ein Teil sind des Menschen, den ich liebe. So sind auch die vorherigen Partnerschaften ein Teil des Menschen, den ich jetzt liebe. Und das ist ein Abdruck, ja, das ist wie so ein Muster auf dem Hemd des Menschen. Ja, sehr schön. Ich danke euch beiden sehr, 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 sehr. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Elisabeth and Gregor. It was very inspiring. I really feel very alive and
yeah, how beautiful it can be, so inspiring and so touching and so much fun to talk about separation. Wow. Separation can even be sexy with you.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's make separation sexy again.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you, Elisabeth, for the invitation, and thank you, Komala, for all of it.
Yes.
And I feel we could talk for a few more hours.
Also da nehme ich ganz viel mit aus diesem Gespräch mit Komala und Gregor. Ich hoffe, ihr auch. Wie wäre es, wenn Trennung ein Teil von Leben ist und die Veränderung von Form zum Leben dazugehört, das Sterben zum Leben dazugehört, das Ende der Liebe schon in der Liebe mit drin ist? Wie wäre es, wenn wir so leben würden? Ein unglaublich spannender Gedanke. Und den beiden ist ganz wichtig, dass sie kein perfektes Bild von Trennung vermitteln, sondern dass sie einfach eine Idee geben, wie bewusstes Trennen möglich ist. Also es gibt nicht die perfekte Trennung und man muss es auch nicht richtig machen. Trennung muss nicht richtig gemacht werden, in Anführungsstrichen, sondern es gibt die Möglichkeit, Trennung so zu vollziehen, dass das Herz der Liebe gegenüber, die du empfunden hast, offen bleibt und dass dadurch auch das, was du gelebt hast vor der nächsten Partnerschaft, mit in die nächste Partnerschaft integriert werden kann und nicht abgespalten oder getrennt werden muss. Schöne Ideen, die beiden da mitgegeben haben. Lass uns ein Leben leben, wo Trennung wieder sexy ist. Wie wäre das? Ich wünsche euch eine wunderschöne Woche und freue mich, dass ihr eingeschaltet habt und freue mich auf euch nächste Woche am Montag bei Lieber Lieben.